Hello everyone. Last time we have started with the second chapter, that is Introduction to Analytical Chemistry. We have discussed about accuracy and precision. Hope you understood that and you have revised it nicely. So today we are going to start with determination of molecular formula. So to start with this topic, first you have to understand what is molecular formula. So as defined, it is the formula which indicates the actual number of atoms of the constituent elements in a molecule. Okay, like for example, if I say water, what is water? We say the molecular formula water is H2O. That means it will contain 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen atoms. Okay, similarly, if I say carbon dioxide, what is the molecular formula of carbon dioxide? It is CO2. That means it will have 2 elements, that is carbon and oxygen. There will be 1 carbon atom and 2 oxygen atom. Like that for anything, like ammonia if I say. What is ammonia? It is NH3. Okay, so over here nitrogen and hydrogen are the elements which is present in that compound, but nitrogen, there will be 1 nitrogen atom and 3 hydrogen atom. So this is what the molecular formula means. That means it will tell us the exact number of constituent atoms or the elements which is there in the molecule. Okay, so hopefully you understood the literal meaning of molecular formula now. Now how can we obtain this? It can be obtained from the experimentally determined values of percentage elemental composition and molar mass of that compound. So now we will understand about the percentage composition and the empirical formula which will help us to find out the molecular formula at the end. Okay, so as you all know that compounds are normally formed by the combination of different elements in a fixed ratio. Okay, so when quantitative determination of the constituent elements by suitable methods are done, then they provide the information of the percent elemental composition of a compound. Okay, that means if we know, that means what is the quantity of each of the element there in the compound, then we can understand what is the percentage of the elemental composition of a compound. So this value, if it is given to us, okay, then we can understand that if the percent is not coming to be 100, whatever the constituent elements which is given, and if it is not coming to be 100, then we can say the difference is considered as the percentage of oxygen. Please understand that. Okay, so if the whole percent doesn't comes out to be 100, then whatever the difference will be there, that is nothing but the percentage of oxygen which is present in that particular compound. Okay, now once the percentage composition is known, the ratio of the atoms of the constituent elements in a molecule can be calculated. Okay, now that simple ratio is said to be the empirical formula. Okay, so hopefully you understood the literal meaning of the percentage composition and the empirical formula. So what is empirical formula? The simplest ratio of atoms of the constituent elements in a molecule is called the empirical formula of that compound. Okay, and the molecular formula can be obtained from the empirical formula if we know the molar mass. Okay, so you know what is the difference between empirical formula and molecular formula. Empirical formula will only give us the ratio of the constituent elements in the compound. Molecular formula is the exact number of atoms which is present in the compound. You should know this difference. Okay, now for example, if my compound is C6H12O6, okay, C6H12O6, so this is glucose, right? Now this is the molecular formula of glucose, that is C6H12O6. Now if I want to say what is the empirical formula of glucose, it will be CH2O. So hopefully you understood the difference between what is molecular formula and what is empirical formula. Okay. So now we'll learn the steps involved to find molecular formula. So first one, we have to check whether the sum of all the percentages is 100. That means if the percentage composition is given to you, you have to sum all the percentage composition of each of the element and see whether it comes to be 100. And if it is not coming to be 100, then the difference will be the percentage composition of oxygen. Okay. So now next one is step 2. Once you got in percentage, you have to convert it into grams. So we can just assume that we have taken 100 grams. Then the percentage one will only become the gram. Okay. Next, step 3. We have to convert it into number of moles of each element. Okay. Now you know what's the formula to find out the number of moles. Number of moles is given mass upon the molar mass of each, right? Now for example, if for hydrogen, if I got the percentage composition like 4.07, okay, then 4.07% will become my in grams, it will be 4.07 grams. Now if I want to find out the number of moles of hydrogen, I have to divide it by the atomic mass of hydrogen. Okay, so it will be 4.07 gram upon 1, then it will be what, 4.07 only. Okay, so this is how you find out the number of moles. So you should know the formula over here, that is number of moles equal to given mass upon the molar mass. Okay, now next one, we have to divide the mole values obtained by the smallest value among them to find out its simple ratio. Now for example, if your compound is of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, okay, now out of this thing you will first find out the number of moles of each one. Now if suppose the number of moles of hydrogen is very less, then what are you going to do? You are going to divide each of the number of moles by the number of moles of hydrogen. Okay, then you will get a simple ratio. Okay, so next step we are going to find out is the empirical formula. So now you know what is empirical formula. The simplest ratio of the constituent elements in a compound is said to be the empirical formula. So whatever the ratio which we got in the previous step will be the empirical formula of that compound. Once the empirical formula is known to you, it is very easy for us to find out the molecular formula. Okay, so the next step will be the molecular formula. Now for example, empirical formula, if my ratio of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, I have taken that example. So carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, if say it comes out to be 1 is to 2 is to 1, 1 is to 2 is to 1, then my empirical formula will be what? Carbon will be 1, hydrogen will be 2 and oxygen will be 1. So it will be 1 CH2O will be my empirical formula. Till now this is not the molecular formula, understand. I got the ratio of each of the constituent element. Now I have to find out the exact number of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Then only I can arrive at the molecular formula. So the last step is to find out the molecular formula. Now in the last step, first thing is I have to determine the empirical formula mass. Now what is this empirical formula mass? Simply, if for example I have taken CH2O, the empirical formula, I just have to put the atomic masses of each of the atoms. Like I have to put, instead of carbon I will be taking 12 plus H is 2, so it will be 2 into 1, plus I have taken oxygen, so oxygen will be plus 16. So that will be my empirical formula mass. Once I get the empirical formula mass, next step I have to do, that is I have to divide the molar mass by empirical formula mass. Okay, so there I'll get a factor. So let that factor be R. So R is equal to empirical formula mass sorry, for molar mass upon the empirical formula mass. Okay, after dividing I'll get a factor. That factor will help me to find out the molecular formula. So the last step, multiply the empirical formula by the factor obtained in the above step to get the molecular formula. Now what is that formula I'll give you? Molecular formula is equal to R into empirical formula. This also you have to remember. So hopefully we'll just revise all the steps. First step is to find out the sum of all the percentages. Okay, that means you will be getting the percentage composition of each of the element. First you will check whether the percentage composition is coming to be 100, or else the difference will be my percentage composition of oxygen. Next step, you will find out the mass in grams. That means whatever you got the mass percentage, you are going to convert it into grams. Now once that step is done, you are going to find out the number of moles of each of the constituent elements in that compound. Once the number of moles is done, you are going to find out the simplest ratio by dividing by the least number of moles of the atom which is obtained. Okay, once the ratio is done, you are going to find out the empirical formula. Once the empirical formula is known to you, you are going to find out the molecular formula. Over here you are going to do 3 steps in to find out the molecular formula. The first thing is you have to find out the empirical formula mass. Next you are going to divide the molar mass by empirical formula mass and you will get a factor. And finally the molecular formula can be calculated by multiplying the empirical formula by the factor R. Now for your understanding, like I got the empirical formula as what? CH2O. Okay, the simplest ratio I got it as what? 1:2:1. After that I wrote the empirical formula as C1H2O. Then if I get the factor R as 2, then what will be the molecular formula? Molecular formula is equal to 2 into CH2O. Then it will be what? C2H4O2 will be my molecular formula. So hopefully you understood this thing. Please do revise it nicely, because next time we are going to do problems based on this topic as well. Okay, for now we are going to complete the theory part of this chapter. Okay, so next we'll understand the chemical reactions and stoichiometric calculation. Next we'll understand the chemical reactions and stoichiometric calculations. So first, to know about chemical reaction, you might have studied it earlier. Chemical reaction, it is nothing but reactants and products will be there. Reactants are written in the left hand side and products are written in the right hand side, and they two are separated by a arrow. Okay, so this is nothing but called as chemical reaction. Okay, and when we equate equal number of atoms of each of the element in both the sides, then we say that the reaction is balanced. Okay, so once you know what is chemical reaction, like for example, if I want to write down the chemical reaction for the formation of water, I will write down H2 plus O2 is O2 will give me H2O. But this is just a chemical reaction. Now if I want to write down the balanced chemical reaction, it will be 2H2 plus O2 will give me 2H2O. Now when you see this reaction, you can see that there are equal number of hydrogen on both the sides and equal number of oxygen on both the sides. This is said to be balanced chemical reaction. Okay, now once you know what is balanced chemical reaction, it is easier for you to understand the stoichiometric calculations. Okay, calculation based on balanced chemical equations are known as stoichiometric calculations. Okay, once again, calculation based on this balanced chemical equation are said to be stoichiometric calculations. Okay, now balanced chemical equation is symbolic representation of a chemical reaction. Now when we write a balanced chemical equation, this will give us some of the information, okay, which will help us to solve the problems. Okay, that information now we'll learn. So over here, information in solving problems based on chemical equation. So after writing balanced chemical equation, what are the information we can derive from that equation? So first one, it indicates the number of moles of the reactants involved in a chemical reaction and the number of moles of the products formed. Next one, it indicates the relative masses of the reactants and products linked with a chemical change. And the last one, it indicates the relationship between the volume or volumes of the gaseous reactants and products at standard temperature and pressure. Okay, now basically when we do a balanced chemical reaction, the coefficients are said to be the number of moles which is involved. Like for example, in water, we told that 2H2 plus O2 will give me H2O, 2H2O. Once again, 2H2 plus O2 will give me 2H2O. That means I can say that 2 moles of hydrogen reacts with 1 mole of oxygen to give me 2 moles of water. So this ratio is very important. Okay, this coefficients will help us to find out the calculation and to solve the problems. Okay, next, stoichiometric problems. Now over here you can get problems based on mass relationship. Next, you can get problems based on mass volume relationship, and last one, you can get the problems based on volume and volume relationship. Next, steps involved in problems based on stoichiometric calculations. Okay, over here, first one, you have to, whenever the problems are given, you have to first write down the balanced chemical equation representing the chemical reaction. Okay, second step, write the number of moles and the relative masses or volumes of the reactants and products below the respective formulae. Next point, relative masses or volumes should be calculated from the respective formula mass referring to the condition of STP, that is standard temperature and pressure. And the last one, apply the unitary method to calculate the unknown factor as required by the problem. So to understand these steps, we'll see one problem. Calculate the mass of carbon dioxide and water formed on complete combustion of 24 gram of methane gas. In bracket, the atomic masses of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen is given. Now, after reading this problem, first, what is the step we have to write? We have to write down the balanced chemical equation representing the chemical reaction. So, which is that reaction? We have to write down combustion of methane. Now, when you see combustion, that means we are reacting with oxygen. So, therefore, CH4 is methane plus O2 will give me carbon dioxide and water. This is the combustion product, that is carbon dioxide and water. So, the reaction will be CH4 plus O2 gives CO2 plus H2O. But this step is not complete. We have to first balance the reaction, then only go for the next step. Okay, so once the reaction is known, reactant and the products are known, you have to write down in the form of equation and you have to balance the equation. Then you have to go to the next step, the number of moles and the masses. Now, once you balance that, the stoichiometric coefficient is nothing but the number of moles. So, once moles you understood, you can find out the relative masses of each of the reactants as well as products. Okay, and over here in this thing, calculate the mass of carbon dioxide and water formed on complete combustion of 24 gram of methane. So that means I have to calculate the amount of carbon dioxide and water when 24 grams of methane is reacted with oxygen. Okay, so we'll now see the solution. So as you can see over here, first the balanced chemical equation is written. CH4 plus 2O2 giving carbon dioxide and 2H2O. So if I want to know what is the number of moles of CH4 over here, I can say 1. So like that I can say that 1 mole of methane reacts with 2 moles of oxygen to give 1 mole of carbon dioxide and 2 moles of water. Okay, so once you know the number of moles, next I am going to find out the relative masses of each one. Okay, so what is the relative mass of each one? When I calculate the molecular mass of each one, CH4, so 12 plus 4, so it will give me 16 grams. Like that for oxygen, O2 is 16 into 2, that is 32, but there are 2 molecules of oxygen, therefore it will become 64 grams. And for carbon dioxide, it is what? 12 plus 16 into 2, so it becomes 44 gram. And for water, you know that it is 18, so 18 into 2 is 36 grams. So once you know the relative masses of each one, now we don't have to calculate the volume, because over here we are going to find out when 24 grams of methane is reacted with water, what is an mass of carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so we don't have to calculate in terms of volume as such. Okay, and volume is normally for the gases. Okay, so hence 16 gram of CH4 on complete combustion will produce 44 gram of carbon dioxide. So first, what is given? From given we are going to find out one compound, and the similar way will be followed for the second compound. So my correlation should be methane is given, I have to find carbon dioxide. So 16 gram gives 44 grams. Then 24 grams will give me how much? So that is a unitary method. You can just cross multiply and find out the answer. So therefore 24 gram of methane will give me 24 into 44 upon 16. That is 66 gram of carbon dioxide. Next, similarly, I can find out for water. If 16 gram of methane gives 36 gram of water, then 24 grams of methane will give me how much amount of water. So similarly, 24 grams of CH4 is equal to 24 into 36 upon 16. So it will give me 54 grams of water. So hopefully you understood. You just have to remember the steps. Rest everything is very easy. Next class we are going to do more problems based on this thing. This is just for your information that how the steps are involved when we are calculating. Okay. Next small topic, limiting reagent. Now this limiting reagent and excess reagent is there. So you have to understand what do you mean by that. Okay. Now for example, a reaction is carried out. Okay, so when a chemist carries out a reaction, the reactants are not usually present in the exact stoichiometric ratios which is mentioned in the balanced chemical equation. Like we have seen a reaction once written, we write on the balanced chemical reaction. So the exact number of moles we know how much to take. But normally when we do a reaction, we don't take the exact amount of reactants. Okay, so over there, our goal is always to get the maximum number of product. That means the quantity should be more. So our goal is to produce the maximum quantity of the useful compound from the starting material. So what we do is a large excess of one reactant is supplied, so that the more expensive reactant is completely converted into the desired product. Okay. So once that is done, the reactant which is present in lesser amount gets consumed after some time and the reaction will stop. Okay, and the one which is in excess will be left over. So the reactant which gets consumed limits the amount of product formed, and therefore they are said to be limiting reagent. So hopefully you understood how the reactions are carried out. So I can say the reactant which gets consumed limits the amount of product formed and is therefore called the limiting reagent. Now for your information, just by seeing or just by knowing, you can understand that the one which is expensive, we'll always think that that should be fully used up in a reaction, or else that reaction will not be a profitable reaction. Therefore the expensive one is taken in a lesser quantity and the cheaper reactant will be taken in excess quantity. So what will happen? The lesser quantity, which the one is the reactant which is expensive, will be fully consumed to convert into product. Once it is converted into product and that reactant is completely used up, what will happen? The reaction will stop, and therefore they are said to be what? Limiting reagent. Hopefully you understood. And the other one which is taken in excess, or we can say the cheaper reactant, is said to be the excess reagent. So for today we'll stop over here, and next time we'll continue with the concentration of solution. So please do revise the topics which we have seen today. Okay then, bye.